the Solo Coach Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Solo Coach Podcast. So today's episode, you have yours truly here to tell you about my experiences of being in business for 1 year and 3 months today. Why a year and 3 months, you might ask? Well, two reasons. Firstly, I completely missed when it was my business's 1 year anniversary in May this year. So I started my business, my coaching business, now known as the Solo Coach, back in May 2024, and it's now August 2025. So firstly, I completely missed my 1 year anniversary. And secondly, at the time that it was my 1 year anniversary, I was going through a period of burnout and having to strip back what I did, things like the podcast, in order to ensure that I continue to serve my clients, but look after myself. There was a bit of self-preservation going on, which I'll come on to later in the episode. But I'm pleased to say that I'm largely past that period now, with better boundaries and new practices in place, and a bit of a shift is going on in my business and my operating model at the moment, which again I'll talk about a little bit later on in the episode. But today's episode is I'm going to cover and share with you 5 lessons learned from my first year and 3 months in business. Now, it's not to encourage or discourage you from starting your own business alongside what you do, or indeed in place of. It is simply to share with you a very honest and authentic account of my experiences over this past year and a bit. I'm going to give you, warts and all, some of the high highs and some of the low lows. And I would add, it's entirely up to you to interpret it in any way that you would like. I'm not here to give advice and tell you what to do, but I'm going to share with you my experiences from this episode almost in a manner that I'm sharing it with my former self, having, looking back over what I've achieved over this past 15 months, and let's say sharing some of the lessons now that I've since learnt that I wish I would have known from the beginning. So anyway, with no further delays, let's get into it. So I want to start by saying, and I literally have this written on my notes here, it's been a shit tip of a year. So many mistakes, so many head in hands moments, so many sleepless, restless nights, and yet so many great moments, perhaps not quite enough yet to balance out all of the challenging moments, let's say. But safe to say there's been some high highs and some low lows along the journey, and it's been a very difficult year. I often describe it when I meet people as having been the biggest learning curve of my life, and every day's a school day, and I'm still learning, failing, making mistakes, having some successes each and every day, sometimes on an hourly basis. And I'm aware that there's not necessarily any right or wrong way to start and run a business. We all have different businesses, different approaches, different methodologies, different philosophies, different operating models, and that's okay. There's room for us all. Variety's the spice of life, and what works for you might not work for me, and what works for me might not work for you. So I just want to caveat once again, I'm not here to tell you how to start and run a business. I am here, in today's episode at least, to share with you what's been my biggest learnings from a very challenging year. Possibly one of the most challenging years of my life to date. Perhaps second only to the year that I decided to leave university and chose a different path. But I spoke about that a lot before, so I don't want to get into that again today, because I'm sure avid listeners of the show shout out to all my loyal listeners and fans, are tired or growing tired of hearing that old story. So I'm going to move on from it and start to tell some more newer stories and more recent stories. So, lesson 1 from my 5 lessons learnt from my first year and a bit in business. Lesson 1 is you get back what you give out. So, in other words, your results echo your identity. So, I've found going into business networking events as one example here that people will believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. And that owning your business, being self-employed, it weans out and it kind of amplifies your greatest weaknesses, worries, fears, concerns and insecurities. There is nowhere to hide. So what I'm saying here is there are, as I'll come on to later, there are numerous methods, techniques and 5, 6, 7, 10 step processes that people will offer to you for how to make a successful business, how to make successful sales, how to convert prospects to clients, etc. But ultimately I've found that below the levels of process and procedure and systems lies your self-belief, and how much you believe in yourself and how much you believe in your product that you are selling and that you are going to these events to represent. And when I have gone into these events a little bit shaky, a little bit fearful, a little bit nervous and perhaps a little unconfident in myself, lacking some self-belief, people have picked up on that, because people are on the whole much smarter than we give them credit for. People are more emotionally intelligent than we believe, and no matter what we say, no matter what we wear, no matter what we give them, however nice our website or marketing literature is, people will pick up on and do pick up on your self-belief. And when you go to one of these events feeling fantastic, feeling proud, feeling fired up and having a whole lot of self-belief, knowing that your product, your service and your offer is absolutely phenomenal, it's great value for money, but more importantly it has the ability to transform lives and make a massive difference to your customers and your clients' worlds, their whole lives. When you go in with that energy, people really pick up on it. They listen, they connect, they show interest, intrigue and genuine curiosity, versus when you go in a little bit hesitant, a little bit nervous and a little unconfident. Now, I'm not advocating going to an event and putting on a face and pretending to be who you are not, putting on a load of false Dutch courage, as we call it, having a few glasses of whiskey beforehand and winging it. Not at all, that doesn't work for me. But what I am advocating is doing the work on yourself, working through those doubts, those fears, those worries, those insecurities, working through them one by one, ideally perhaps with a coach, with someone else, with a trusted friend, an advisor, doesn't really matter who, but working through them, or even solo, working through them and figuring out a way to ramp up your self-belief, to increase and grow and develop that identity, so that you really truly believe in your product, and no matter what words come out your mouth, no matter what you say, no matter what you write on social media, no matter what answers you give to the questions that you will be asked, you know that you will show up, however, whether it's online, through Zoom, in a podcast, face to face at a networking event, having a coffee with someone, a one-to-one, or bumping into them in the streets or in the supermarkets. No matter what the context, no matter what the atmosphere or the environment, no matter where and when you bump into these people, you will have that unshakable, that unwavering self-belief, then you'll start to feel a shift, then and only then, because that's when the sales do start to come back in. People do listen up, their ears prick up and they notice, not literally, but you know what I mean, metaphorically. People will notice, they will listen, and they will remember you, because an old saying is that people will forget what you told them, but they won't forget how you made them feel. And to go in there and be humble and respectful rather, but also to have that unwavering, that unshakable self-belief, that's infectious. People want to associate with someone who's got a lot of self-belief, even if they've not got any product yet, no website, no social media followers, no testimonials, no sales even. Having that unshakable self-belief, believing in yourself, believing in your product, and being able to project that belief is incredibly powerful. It's not everything, but it's, I would say, the majority of what I have learned as my first lesson from being in business. You get back what you give out. When you show that great self-belief, that great self-confidence, and you project it, that belief in yourself and your product and the value and the difference that you are there, that you are here to make in the world and are going to make, as and when people sign up for your client, for your product or service, you'll find that your results will echo that identity. People will come on board, they will buy into what you're selling, they will want a piece of it, they will want to associate with you, they will want to refer people to you, they will want you in their networking events, they will want you in their circles, they will want to affiliate and associate themselves with you as someone with an unshakable amount of self-belief and self-confidence. Lesson 1, you get back what you give out. Your results echo your identity. Working on yourself, facing the fears and doing it anyway, proving to yourself that you can do it despite the fears and the insecurities is adamant. It is essential to starting out and starting to build your business and your brand and your reputation, building those essential relationships, putting in the foundations, the building blocks of your business. And you know, these networking events, for as an example, it will amplify how you feel. If you're feeling fantastic, chances are you'll go to a networking event and feel even better. If you're feeling like shit and you're having a really terrible day, chances are you'll go to a networking event and feel worse. Your results echo your identity. It's a boomerang effect, the echo of life, as Ed Mylett calls it. So it's essential to go out there and to do the work first. Do the work on yourself to improve and increase that self-belief. Because the more you can ramp up that identity, the more the big successful results that you are craving and looking for will follow. They absolutely will. My best months in business, the most clients I've attracted in a month, the best results I've had, the best testimonials, the most sales I've had have been at the time or around the time that I felt the best about me, myself, the best about my business. And I've had that the strongest self-identity, the most self-belief, the most self-confidence, and the most self-love. Those have been my best months. The months where I've felt like shit, the months where I've doubted myself, and I mean really doubted myself, wondering if I'm on the right path, wondering if I'm barking up the wrong tree, worrying myself to sleep about my business results, being scared to make the pitch, not, really questioning and doubting myself, having an extremely loud self-critic and an imposter syndrome yelling at me. Those months have been my worst months, unsurprisingly, with little or no sales and poor results. And You get the picture. Your results echo and reflect how you're feeling about yourself. So that's lesson number 1. And I appreciate this is pretty deep, but I really want to be honest with you about how I'm feeling and about what I've learned and experienced this year, as though I'm speaking to my former younger self prior to starting this journey. Lesson 2. It's far easier to spend money than to earn it, particularly in the early days. So, as a new business owner, you've just started your business, you're just building your brand, you're building your reputation, you're getting to know people, you're building relationships, you're getting out there, putting yourself out there for the first time. Hoorah! You go to these business networking events and you'll find that you are the ideal client for a lot of these people. It isn't a coincidence that they're there. You might need a website, you might need a brand, you might need some graphic design, you might need a CRM, you probably need an accountant, you might need some financial loan support, business funding support, you name it. All the services that a new business just starting out, sales, marketing, advertising, branding, design, financing, accounting, you will find that there will be people in that room who are targeting you, and they're very good at it and they've been doing it for a long time, and they will have fantastic promises for you, fantastic products, many of which really will be genuinely fantastic. Not all, but many. And it will be very difficult, it was for me, it was very difficult to decide which product I was going to buy into at the right time. I had people talking to me about Google Analytics, about SEO, about branding, about printing, about business cards, having the latest, greatest website, having a solid sales funnel, having a onboarding process, having an ebook, having a podcast. There's people out there that will sell you all of these products, many of which will be fantastic. But the problem is, the challenge is here, when you're just starting out, you're just in the early days, it's so easy to spend, say, that X amount of money you've got saved, that X amount. They know what to say to you. They will convince you it's an investment. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your business. It'll pay you back dividends. And sometimes it does. But the problem is, very often, it doesn't. And it might be that investment might pay you back dividends in 3 to 5 years. But when you are just starting out, you're just trying to create your first few clients, you're just trying to get your first few sales, to get that first bit of cash flow coming back into the business, to start to put back the countless amount of money that you've spent on training courses, on accreditations, possibly on building your own website and branding and your business cards and your printing and everything else so far. Currently, it then becomes the question of, is this the right time? Is this the right investment? Can I truly afford this? Or is this something possibly for later? And making that decision is extremely difficult, and I'm not here to tell you exactly how to make it and what you should buy or not buy, because as a coach working with creative solopreneurs, I am also seeking new business starters. I will be in that room. I will be looking forward to meeting you. I will be willing to have a conversation with you. The key thing is, from your perspective, speaking directly to myself, my younger self now, it is adamant that you take time to really carefully think through, to carefully evaluate what you are being offered before you say yes and shake their hand and spend that money, those vital early funds that are within your business, that are quite, if not, in my experience, very difficult to replace, particularly in the early days. It is vital to, what I would advocate doing as a rule of thumb, if you're about to say yes to something, a service or a product, sleep on it first. Sleep on it. Or if it's something you're going to buy, stick it in the checkout and then sleep on it and come back to it a day later. Because some of the tactics that you'll find being used in sales conversations are creating a false sense of urgency. The price is going to go up next week. There's only 3 places left. If you don't get it, there's 5 people in the queue behind you. I can't maintain this price. I'm going to have an answer from you today. I need a deposit from you right now. This offer is only valid today. This is the last day. You can't afford to say no. I am giving you a 50% off deal right now. You have to say yes right now. You can't wait till tomorrow. You name it. Any and every tactic that could be used, I'm going to say it, against you, so that you are forced to make a decision and buy on the spot, will be. Not by everyone. I want to say that. Not by everyone. The majority of people I've met at small business networking events in my local area of Leeds are lovely, and their sales processes are non-pushy, are not salesy, and are not fake, full of false promises. They are not. I am amazed and astounded and truly honoured to be associated with the small business owners that I associate with, some of whom are now my clients or have referred me clients. I am not here to slag off other business owners and their sales tactics. On the contrary, I also am a small business owner with a sales process. I've just finished a fantastic 8-week sales course, as it happens. And that's a perfect example. I knew I needed to improve some skills. I knew I had a skills gap, and I knew I needed to do some work specifically in the sales area of my business. So I spoke to someone I trusted, someone I knew. We had a conversation. Turns out they were offering an 8-week sales group coaching course. I evaluated their offering. I read their reviews and testimonials, and I made a decision which was yes, based on my existing relationship and trust that I built up with that person, having met them several times and them having given me some really helpful advice and guidance and support with my business thus far. I had made that decision. I had decided, I had judged their character and decided I could trust them and that they weren't just out to sell me some snake oil. However, on a daily basis, people connect with me on my LinkedIn. They try to connect with me. I have connect requests left, right and centre from people with taglines which are a one-liner: 10k in 10 weeks, 6 times your income in 6 weeks, follow this 5-step process for a 6-figure income by this time next year. All of these absolutely stinkingly false promises with steam coming off them, and I can't stand them. I will never make such false promises in my business and in my marketing and advertising materials. As a coach, I am not here to do the work for you or to promise you 6 times your income in 6 weeks. Absolutely not. What I can do is sit with you, have a deep and meaningful conversation, and we can talk about your income. We can figure out where the barriers and obstacles are, what's standing in the way from where you are now and where you want to be. We can look at what's worked in the past and what's failed. We can look to replicate what's worked well and do less of what's not working, or to tweak and change what's not working, to try a different approach. But it will be you in the driving seat. I am simply in the passenger seat to facilitate your thought, to facilitate your thinking process as your thinking partner. My job is not to make you a false promise, because then I feel that's insincere and dishonest and even insulting and a little deceitful for me to make such a false promise. So all I promise to you is that we'll have a fantastic conversation and that we will work on your challenges and obstacles, and we will make progress that's in your best interest, on your cards, in the way that you want, in the place that you want to do it, and at the frequency and interval that you want to do it at, because you're my customer and I believe that the answers are within you as the coaching client. My job is simply to facilitate that thinking process. But like I say, without going off too far on a tangent there are always going to be more than one way to achieve something. If you need a website, you need a CRM, you need an accountant, you need a finance system, you need some business cards or some flyers printing, or you need a social media management agent or a virtual assistant, I guarantee to you, here comes a promise, I promise and I guarantee to you that there will always be more than one option. You are never, I say it again, you are never forced to take the option in front of you. It is never the only one. It is never the only way. I would absolutely implore you to spend your money intentionally and also to pause and consider and reflect carefully before buying into courses, programs and products that may or may not serve you, and it may or may not be the right time. Equally, following your gut, listening to your intuition. I interviewed someone called Alexandra Thornton who wrote a whole book on intuition. I've got a signed copy of it in the other room. We'll talk more about that in that episode. That's coming up next week. That's really important, to listen to your gut. But as I say, if in doubt, pause, consider carefully. It's far easier to spend money in the early days of building your business than it is to earn it. Spend and invest wisely and always sleep on it first. So that was number 2. So again, 5 lessons learned from my first year and a bit in business. Number 1 was you get back what you give out. Number 2 is it's far easier to spend than earn money, particularly in your first year. Number 3 is, however appealing it might be, don't be too hasty to burn the boats, i.e. quit your full-time job and go all in. It's a nice concept, burning the boats, going all out, no quitting, no turning back. The challenge is it's very, very risky. And it's in fact better to manage and mitigate that risk by having a hybrid, or what we call a portfolio income, a hybrid earning model. It's easier to change. It's often, not always, but it's often easier to change a full-time 5-day job that you've been doing for 5 or 10 years to a 4-day-a-week flexible working contract than it is to find a fresh 4-day-a-week flexible working job, as I am finding at the moment. Consider carefully and wisely before quitting your day job. So for me, I finished my full-time IT job at the tea company at the end of 2022, and took me a moment there to remember, and spent the whole of 2023 travelling, which I do not regret in the slightest. And when I returned after a short stint in another IT job, I took a part-time job as a professional storyteller for the coaching company that I trained with, and I did that from May all the way till the end of December last year, December 2024. That model worked really well, as I worked for Animas 3 days a week, and then I was building the solo coach for 2 days a week, and it was fun, and there was less pressure on my coaching income. In fact, I didn't touch my coaching income that year. I simply let it accumulate in my business account, and I used it for spending on things like my website, and I had a business coach and a life coach at the time. You might say, well, hang on a minute, David, you said you didn't touch it. What I mean is, I didn't draw any income from it. I didn't rely on that money from my coaching business in order to pay my household living costs, my bills, my rent, or my mortgage, or my council tax, my phone bill, my holiday costs, running the car, etc. All of the costs we associate with everyday life. I didn't extract any of that money from a business account. I simply used it to reinvest into the business. That led to a good amount of growth. I signed clients at a good rate. I had some fantastic wins, and I really, really enjoyed it. The challenge came when my job at the end of the year finished. It was a temporary fixed term contract and it ended at the end of the year. And then I decided this year to go all out and to be a full-time solopreneur, a full-time self-employed business and life coach. The difficulty has been having all my eggs in one basket has put an inordinate amount of pressure on me to generate a solid income from my coaching. And that pressure, I have gradually found it eating away at me, and I found it quite crippling, and it did lead to burnout earlier this year around the 12-month anniversary in May. Anniversary of my business, that is. In hindsight and on reflection, what I have learned, that for me, may be different to you, but for me, it's easier to build a business from scratch when you have an existing source of income alongside it that is regular and consistent and reliable. Because in those early days, the first year of setting up a business, the income is all over the place. Some months it might be feast, another month might be famine. It is a roller coaster. I can honestly attest to that, and I really mean it. There's some high highs and some low lows, and some months it's great, it's a harvest, and other months that it is dreadful and there's a famine, and you are scratching your head. I am scratching my head wondering how I'm going to make ends meet, and it has been financially brutally tough. So what I would say is, never burn your bridges. If you can have different eggs in different baskets while you're building your business, at least in the early days, that's extremely advantageous, and as a result you will sleep better at night. And in my experience, as nice as the burning the boats concept is, in reality it might be better to build the business gradually alongside having an existing source of income. And I'm aware that not everyone might agree, and I am aware, abundantly aware, that there are countless examples of people who have gone all out, built a business from the ground up and made it work. And they may say to me, well, David, it's because of XYZ reason that you haven't built your business up yet and you're now finding yourself at this point. But we're all different. It's a learning curve. Every day's a school day. And what I have tried to do throughout this year, throughout this whole process, right from May last year, right from when I began, is remain true to myself and to remain honest, and to ensure that what I offer, what I do, what I promise to people, what I charge for, feels right to me and is honest and is real and is authentic. I have not compromised my authenticity, and I have not compromised on my honesty and made false promises and overcharged for products that I felt I couldn't deliver, which for me has been really important, and I'm glad and I do not regret deliberately staying true to myself. So in a nutshell, 5 lessons learnt from my first year and a bit in business. Number 1, you get back what you give out. Number 2, it's far easier to spend than earn money, particularly in your first year. Number 3 is don't be too hasty to burn the boats. Now, number 4, I'm aware that these first 3 have sounded quite negative, and it sounded a little like a sort of a doom and gloom episode, and I want it not to. But I felt it really important to get those key messages and lessons out there before moving on to number 4, which is there really is no feeling quite like when it all comes together. So you're going out there, you build a brand, a website maybe, a product, you design it, you price it accordingly. Perhaps before that you've trained to deliver this product, you've got your certifications, your qualification, and you design your product, and you go out there and you go and advertise it and market it. Perhaps you do social media posts and email campaigns. Maybe you do cold outreach, warm outreach, hot outreach, networking, relationship building, conducting discovery calls and offering solutions. And then, boom, it happens. There's that magical moment when your first client says yes. You get your first sale, and they're your ideal client. They fit your ideal client profile. They say yes, they shake your hand, and then maybe you invoice them and they send you the amount straight away, the full amount or the first instalment. And there's an immense pleasure there. You've nailed it. You've done it. Everything's come together, perhaps in the 11th hour. You've put so much work and effort into getting that first sale. You've taken a huge risk of starting this business. You've put your money on the line. You've put your time on the line. You've put your energy and your reputation on the line. You've risked it all. And it's paid off. At least it's begun. It's started. And you've proven the concept. Perhaps later on, once that client takes a few sessions and starts to make progress, and then maybe finishes and writes you a glowing testimonial, you've proven the concept. You've proven that it works. You've followed your heart. You followed your gut. You followed your intuition. You followed your own path. You charted your own course, and then you've been out there and sailed it. The point is, being in business, being self-employed, we have to live for those moments. Those moments can be fleeting, they can be rare, and they can soon pass as you realise that's still not going to be enough to pay this month's bills. Or they've said yes, but it's going to be 30 days before that invoice comes in. I could do with it sooner than then. Or for anyone in a million reasons, crushing reality might hit shortly after you've had that win, and you might then feel deflated and drained and crap again. But the key thing is to live for those moments and to ride that wave when it comes, because we spend a lot of time in business weathering the storm, trying to attract more clients, trying to write more enticing social media content to get our voice heard, trying to refine our offer, trying to cost it accordingly and make it great value for money, trying to increase our product's value, trying to improve ourselves and grow our own skill set, trying to build and grow the business and get into new circles and make new relationships, to learn and practice and test what works in networking spaces, in one-to-one discovery calls, in converting clients. We try to build and then formulate and mature our processes and procedures. It all never stops. It's like a freight train, like the film Unstoppable with Denzel Washington. That freight train that just keeps going no matter what. It's at full throttle. There's always something else to be doing. There's always something else that needs tending to. We are spinning all the plates at the same time. We're juggling all the balls. You get it. Being in business, being self-employed. Sometimes the wins can be few and far between. But we have to live for those moments, and we have to relish and savour those moments when they come. Because they don't always come very often, but when they do come, it really matters. Because you've gone out there and you've created a product and you've sold it, and perhaps you've changed somebody's life, and you've done that on your own back. And it's important for us to tap ourselves on the back and to feel proud of ourselves for what we've done and what we've achieved, because it's so easy to just look at everything else that's in the list that still needs doing, to tick one thing off and look at the 50 plus things that's still on the list and still feel like shit, still feel behind, to go on social media, see everyone else's fantastic posts and feel like ours aren't good enough, to see how well other people are speaking, to see that other people have an ebook, an email campaign, a newsletter, a podcast, a website, 3 websites, 3 businesses, 10 businesses, 20 businesses. You know, there's always people out there doing more and seemingly doing what you do, but doing it better than you. But you have to remember, we have to come back to living for those moments, because there really is no feeling quite like when it all comes together. You get a yes from that ideal client, and then you start working with one. I've got my most recent client in my head at the moment. He listens to the podcast. He knows who he is. Shout out to him. Shout out to you, I should say, if you're listening. I know you are. It's so satisfying, because the work that you get to do together makes a real, genuine, lasting difference. It matters, and it really feels like it matters. And you do put your head on the pillow that night and go, today was a good day. Today it all came together. But despite what social media might suggest, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen by itself. It takes an inordinate amount of work and effort and relentless compound pounding, as Ed Mylett calls it, before you do actually go out there and get that first sale and get that first win in the bag. So number 4 of this list of 5 lessons learnt from my first year and a bit in business. Again, to run through them. Number 1, you get back what you give out. Number 2, it's far easier to spend than to earn money, particularly in your first year. Number 3, don't be too hasty to burn the boats. Hesitation, pausing, taking a moment to sleep on it. It doesn't cost you anything, but it might save you tens of thousands of pounds in the long run. Don't be forced and pressure sailed into buying anything, because there'll always be another option, another way, another service provider, another product. Pause, please. If that's all you take away from this podcast, just pause when someone offers you something, because you might find that when you've slept on it, you might have changed your mind. You might have an additional thought or an additional observation. Most of the work that happens between coaching happens between the sessions. Most of the work that happens in coaching happens between the sessions, as you pause and you reflect and you sleep on the conversation that's been had, and you take the actions in between the sessions. Number 4, sorry I got distracted there. Number 4, there's no feeling quite like when it all comes together. And then number 5, the final one of my 5 lessons from my first year and a bit in business. Number 5 is remember. Remember. This too shall pass. The good times, the bad times, the so-so times, the quiet times, the busy times, they will all pass, because nothing lasts forever. And the key thing is to ride the wave when it comes and weather the storm when that comes too. Because, as I've said so many times on this podcast, and I want to say it again, I feel it's a really good analogy. We're constantly planting the seeds in everything that we do when we're running a business. Planting seeds, meeting people, building relationships, putting content out there on the different various platforms, sometimes evergreen content, as they call it. We're constantly working on it, constantly planting seeds, and we have little or no control as to when those seeds will germinate and when it will be time for us to harvest our crop. But it will come. It will come in time. Consistency and persistence are key, because this too shall pass. That goes for the good times and the bad times. When there's loads of sales coming through, when you're putting loads of money in the bank, when you're loving it, when you're thriving, when you're working with your ideal clients, remember that this too shall pass. So that might be a fantastic time to invest in some coaching to discuss what's going well and how you can continue to maintain and grow this fantastic new client base. Coaching doesn't need to just be an intervention when things go wrong, when you hit rock bottom, when you sail up shit creek. Coaching can enable you to go from good to great, or from great to outstanding. Equally, when things are bad, when times are tough, when you're feeling isolated, lonely, you're struggling, you're feeling stuck. I have felt all these feelings and then some this year. I really have. I can't explain to you enough how tough and how crippling some of the moments of this year have been from a business and personal perspective, because the two are intrinsically linked. But they've always passed. The hard times have passed, the good times have passed. And then it looks just like the seasons. You know, when you're right in the middle of the thick of winter, it won't be too many weeks until you're into spring, and then not too many weeks until you're into the middle of summer, into a gorgeous, hot, bright summer's evening, having a barbecue with your friends. But then when that happens again, it won't be too many weeks until you're into autumn, kicking the leaves around, and then not too many more weeks until you're right back where you started, seemingly, in the thick of winter. But it's another winter, another year has passed, and you've learnt and grown a great deal. And it's important, again, possibly with your coach, I do this with my clients, to look back on where are we now, what have we achieved over the last X many months or years, how much further are we forward? Because when it feels like we're stuck right back at the beginning again, we're never quite back at the beginning, because we've always learnt and achieved and grown something, and we've become more enlightened, more experienced, and a little more hardened, let's say, by the conditions. Possibly the wrong choice of words there. But you know what I mean. You become a little more resilient, having an awareness of that this too shall pass. This too shall pass. So, as it comes to the end of the episode, 5 lessons learnt from my first year and a bit in business. Number 1, you get back what you give out, the echo of life. Number 2, it's far easier to spend than to earn money, particularly in your first year. Number 3, don't be too hasty to burn the boats. Number 4, there's no feeling quite like when it all comes together. And number 5, remember, this too shall pass. In summary, it's been a very, very tough first year and a bit. I'm sure you've picked that up reading between the lines of this episode. And I am not completely deterred. I promise you. I'm not going anywhere. It's not all ending tomorrow. However, I have realised that for me and my business and me personally, a shift is needed. And I'm currently working on that shift, that alternative operating model as we speak, moving towards more of a portfolio income model. I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope this episode has been interesting to you. If you are perhaps interested in starting a business or already running a business, perhaps a lot further ahead in your business journey than I am, I would love to hear from you. I would love to connect, and I would love perhaps to have a conversation, I would love to have a conversation on how I could support you on your journey. I'm not here to tell you how to do things. I'm not here to give advice, despite what today's episode might have felt like. When we're in the coaching space, coaching is different from podcasting. When we're in the coaching space, I am here to listen to you, to ask open questions, to offer reflections on what you've said to me, and essentially to help you to think more clearly, to create and forge and follow your own path, to build momentum between sessions, to get you closer to where you want to be, to realising that big dream, that big vision, that big mission that you're sitting on, that you've been holding on to and thinking about for some time now. I do believe that we all have that calling. There's something calling out to all of us. There's some feeling that we have to do and be more, to make a difference in the world, to leave a legacy behind, to enjoy this life that passes so quickly. I don't believe we are meant to just exist, go through the motions and kind of sail through life on autopilot. I do believe each of us have a message to share, have a legacy to leave behind, have people that we can work with and help, there's something that we're all meant to do, meant to be. We're all called to be more in some way or another. And if you have that calling, if you have that vision, I would simply love for you to share that vision with me. What is it that you'd like to achieve in your life? What do you want to look back on having done? What do you want to spend your next 10, 15, 20 years working on, growing, building, achieving? What would you be irate if you got to the end of your life and found out that you'd never tried it, you never started it, you'd never pursued it, you'd never given it a go? How frustrating would that be to say, damn, I wish I would have just given it a go, just given it a try. Well, good news, I am here for people like you to help you to figure out what it is you want, and then to help you, to support you to go out and get it. Not that you need help, but I am here to offer it, to support you to achieve greatness easier and quicker, and to enjoy the process a little bit more. Thank you very much for listening. I would love to see you again next week when it's my interview with Alex Thornton. She's phenomenal. She has so much to say all about her book on intuition. So make sure to tune in wherever you get your podcasts. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Take care.
The Solo Coach Podcast.